SMS, Dr. Mohammed Maliki Osman.
Mr. Chairman, Minister for Defense Dr. Ng has spoken about the uncertain and volatile geopolitical environment that confronts us and how a strong SAF is vital to help us navigate this landscape for Singapore. History has shown us that having a strong defense makes all the difference. This is why our long-term and sustained investment in the SAF and total defense is vital for Singapore's continued security and prosperity. When total defense was first introduced in 1984, it was in response to a threat landscape where warfare was very much conventional. However, even then, there was recognition that potential aggressors would target not just the military, but the entire population. As threats evolved, total defense becomes even more critical. Take terrorism, for example. The face of terrorism has changed. From kinetic attacks spearheaded by Al-Qaeda and Jemaah Islamiyah, or JI, in the early 2000s, the ISIS's more insidious attempts to radicalize and recruit followers through the use of technology and social media to deepen distrust between communities and sow discontent with the establishment. They even fund and instruct their members and sympathizers to launch terror attacks like suicide bombings in their own countries. ISIS may have lost ground in the Middle East, but links to our region remains alive. The return of foreign fighters exacerbates this threat. In this age of the internet and social media, resilience of Singaporeans will be tested through attacks from the digital front. This will be the new battlefront because of how connected we are and how reliant we are on digital technology to communicate and to consume information. Singapore has one of the highest levels of internet penetration in the world. And according to a study done by media company We Are Social in 2018, people in Singapore spend an average of 2 hours daily on social media, with WhatsApp, YouTube, and Facebook being the top 3 most used platforms. So our connectivity opens us to threats from the digital domain, which will confront and define this generation. Many examples in Singapore and overseas illustrate the devastating impact that these threats can wreak, the digital dangers and the need for strong digital defense. So, for example, Estonia was one of the first countries in the world to experience this in April 2007, when a cyber attack caused online services of their banks, media outlets, and government to be shut down. Citizens could not access cash machines and online banking services. News could not be printed nor broadcasted. More than 10 years on, cyber attacks in various forms remain a tool for those who do harm to us. Another example, in July 2018, more recent, the Alaskan borough of Batanuska Susitna, or Matsu, was, as the BBC article describes, sent back in time by a malware attack which forced them offline, resulting in some of the borough staff having to bring out old typewriters just to keep services going. Another challenge is how quickly information and disinformation can spread over the digital domain. The recent riots that broke out at the Hindu temple in Subang Jaya, Malaysia, showed how the spread of rumors and fake news via social media just overnight could fan the flames of racial tensions and incite social unrest. As Ms. Joan Pereira noted, it is important for us to keep our social defense strong, so we stay united against any attempts to divide us. All communities and faiths have worked hard to build our multicultural and multi-religious society today. We must not let falsehoods pit different social groups against one another. Many of these digital dangers show that complacency ignorance, or negligence on the part of individuals could pave the way for an attack with disastrous consequences. A January 2019 report by NATO's Strategic Communications Center of Excellence outlined how their researchers managed to track and trick NATO troops using open source data, primarily from social media. It was concerning how it was so easy for the researchers to identify troops, locate their battalions, persuade them to abandon their posts, and reveal sensitive details about military maneuvers. This example shows how much people take online lives for granted and are unaware about how the seemingly innocuous information they post about their lives can be used for harm, not just for themselves, but for the wider society. And Singapore is not spared. We know how hackers stole the information of 1.5 million SingHealth patients. We have also seen the spread of fake news on a wide range of matters, for example, plastic rice or halal pork, to more insidiously false accounts of incidents that could inflame xenophobia, communalism, and puncture social harmony. This is why we have strengthened total defense with a new digital defense pillar. Ms. Joan Pereira and Dr. Teo Ho Pin asked about our digital defense efforts. We want to bring across the message that every individual is at the forefront of digital defense. And this is not a cliché. It is of great significance, and as articulated in an editorial in the Straits Times, and I quote, "Every citizen is a soldier in the digital war," unquote. Only if everyone plays a part, the government, businesses, communities, and individuals, can we make digital defense a part of Singapore's DNA and keep our defense total. As a whole-of-nation approach, MINDEF has been working with various government agencies to fortify Singapore and Singaporeans against digital threats. MCI and its agencies, the Cyber Security Agency, CSA, the Infocom Media Development Authority, IMDA, and the National Library Board, NLB, have in place various programs to empower individuals, businesses, and the wider community, so they can play a part by being secure, alert, and responsible online. In MHA, the Singapore Police Force, or SPF, has developed further its capabilities to deal with cybercrime and educates the public on staying safe in cyberspace. As Dr. Ng spoke about earlier, we have strengthened our defense sector networks through setting up the Defense Cyber Organization, or DCO, and ensuring they have a strong core and pipeline of people with the right skills and expertise to do this work. We will also ensure that our servicemen are prepared for threats from the digital domain. We are working with NLB to have all recruits going through the basic military training, or BMT, to attend an information literacy workshop to equip them to better recognize and deal with fake news and deliberate online falsehoods. For the rest of our personnel, MINDEF and SAF will inoculate them against hostile information campaigns and fake news, as well as strengthen cybersecurity awareness through enhancing our existing curriculum and learning journeys. We hope that collectively, these efforts will help our servicemen better understand the role of fake news in modern warfare, the steps that they can take in response, and strengthen cyber hygiene as a whole. For students, issues related to digital defense are already in MOE's curriculum and will be reinforced through digital literacy and cyber wellness programs. Ms. Joan Pereira asked about how we are reaching out to our youth. We refreshed the Guardians of the City, or GOTC, game card this year to include threats from the digital domain. Students who have played the refreshed game felt it helped them better understand these threats, and how they can play a part. For example, ITE college student Deshaun Lau shared with us, and I quote, "Playing the game helped me realize that when we face digital threats, we must stay together as a community and remind each other to take steps to prevent these attacks." Unquote. Businesses too are putting digital defense in action. A workplace design company, Space Matrix, has not only invested in cybersecurity systems, but also trained their staff to keep these threats at bay. Digital threats hit close to home when someone impersonated their CEO via email and asked staff for fund transfers. They did not fall victim, thanks to the vigilance of their staff who recognized the false email identification. The company subsequently fine-tuned their systems to better protect themselves for the future. Keeping Singapore strong together. While we step up efforts in digital defense, the multifaceted threats of today mean that to keep Singapore strong, we need a collective effort where everyone plays a part and takes action across all 6 pillars of total defense. Mr. Chairman, may I say a few words in Malay, please? Tuan Pengerusi, pertikaian maritim dan ruang udara di antara Singapura dan Malaysia telah menguatkan lagi kepentingan pertahanan mutlak kita. Agensi keselamatan kita berdiri teguh dan siap siaga untuk mempertahankan kedaulatan kita. Rakyat Singapura bersatu padu dan berdiri teguh atas dasar prinsip kita untuk memelihara kepentingan nasional kita. Jadi, amatlah memberangsangkan apabila kita melihat bagaimana rakyat Singapura menggunakan media sosial untuk membetulkan dakwaan palsu yang menunjukkan sokongan kepada kedudukan Singapura. Contohnya, Encik John Lam dalam post beliau yang telah mendorong rakyat Singapura untuk bersikap tenang dan sopan ketika pertikaian maritim antara Singapura dan Malaysia mula tegang. Beliau menggunakan contoh-contoh daripada pengalaman Singapura sebelum ini untuk memaparkan bagaimana kita sebagai satu rakyat bersatu hati menangani rintangan dan menjadi lebih teguh. Misalnya, apabila menghadapi ancaman bekalan air yang akan putus, kita membuat pelaburan dalam teknologi penampisan air dan penyulingan dan membina pusat rawatan air New Water kita yang tersendiri. Dan apabila menghadapi ancaman larangan mengimport pasir, kita membangunkan cara yang inovatif dan mesra alam untuk menggunakan jumlah pasir yang lebih kurang bagi kerja penambangan. Apa yang telah dilakukan oleh Encik Lam dan ramai lagi merangkumi intipati sebenar pertahanan psikologi, iaitu rakyat kita bersatu padu dan berdiri teguh untuk Singapura. Ahli-ahli parlimen seperti Puan Cheng Li Hui juga mengakui pentingnya perkara ini. Ketegangan antara dua hala antara Singapura dan Malaysia yang berterusan telah membantu rakyat Singapura memahami dengan lebih baik apakah pegangan kita, mengapa penting bagi kita untuk mengambil pendirian ini, iaitu untuk menegakkan kedaulatan wilayah kita dan beroperasi dalam peraturan antarabangsa yang berasaskan undang-undang. Saiz kita yang kecil dan ketidaktentuan di rantau ini menunjukkan betapa pentingnya warga Singapura untuk kekal komited kepada pertahanan kita sendiri dan mempunyai angkatan bersenjata Singapura yang kuat. Sir, I spoke earlier about how the terrorism threat is here to stay. Security agencies will do all we can to prevent an attack. But even if one takes place, it is important that every Singaporean knows what to do so that we can hold together and bounce back quickly as a society. We commend ground initiatives that put total defense in action in this way, such as the example of the young Singaporeans who came together to develop the Bukit Panjang Emergency Preparation Guide, with the support of the Bukit Panjang Community Emergency and Engagement Committee, or C2E, as Dr. Teo Ho Pin had shared about. To build emergency preparedness, we have put in place the Community Response Module that equips MINDEF and SAF personnel to be active community responders by teaching them skills to better protect themselves and help those around them in the event of a terror attack. This complements MHA's SG Secure effort, which continues to build vigilance, cohesion and resilience in the community to deal with a terror attack. MINDEF's total defense partnerships with organizations such as the Singapore Red Cross and the Temasek Foundation CARES also equip people with the knowledge and skills that they can apply in a crisis. For example, the Business Psychological Resilience Program, or BPREP, part of the Temasek Foundation CARES Stay Prepared initiative, trains employees of companies in skills like psychological first aid. MINDEF has also been actively reaching out to our youth and the wider community on total defense. And it is heartening to see how they have rallied around total defense. One example is our 5 students from Temasek Polytechnic, Benedict, Gabriel, Jed, Martin and Xinghao, and they developed a total defense mobile application game named Lion City. The game highlights how simple, everyday actions contribute towards building a strong and cohesive nation. The game's developers hope that by doing so, they can inspire their fellow youths to play their part and put total defense into action. Sir, in conclusion, Singapore has enjoyed peace and prosperity as we have strong SAF, a strong national service system, and a strong public support for defense and security. 35 years ago, on and after the launch of total defense, we must continue to involve all communities and faith to play their part. As we commemorate the Singapore Bicentennial this year, let us strengthen our resolve to safeguard our future of Singapore and Singaporeans. Thank you, sir.